Welcome back, ghost hunters and thrill seekers. Last time we dipped our toes into Kentucky's haunted waters, tiptoeing past a few restless spirits and whispering legends. But this time? Oh, this time we're diving straight into the deep end. Forget the kiddie pool of spooky spots. Part 2 is all about the heavy hitters. We're tackling the big dogs of Kentucky hauntings, the places so haunted, even the ghosts bring flashlights. Now, when I say big dogs, I'm not talking about Scooby-Doo running around with a sandwich. I'm talking about the granddaddies of Kentucky's paranormal scene. The ones that make skeptics sleep with the lights on, and believers start Googling sage bundles on Amazon at 3 a.m. These aren't your casual, cold breeze in the hallway type haunts. These are full-body apparitions standing over your bed asking for rent money type haunts. In this episode, you're going to hear about haunted spots so famous that even the ghosts probably have their own fan clubs. Places where history left a scar so deep that it decided to stick around forever. You know it's serious when even paranormal investigators show up looking nervous, clutching their EMF detectors like teddy bears. If you thought Part 1 was spooky, consider that the warm-up. Part 2 is like the roller coaster that goes upside down, backwards, and makes you question your life choices halfway through. You'll laugh, you'll shiver, and you might even glance over your shoulder once or twice. Don't worry, it's probably just your cat. Unless it isn't. All right, let's get into it. Kentucky's Most Haunted Places, Part 2. The legends, the spirits, and the bone-chilling stories that keep this state on every ghost hunter's bucket list. You ready? Good. Just don't blame me if something follows you home after this. All right, hit my intro. Are you ready for some haunted history? Welcome to Screamville. Waverly Hill Sanatorium is perched atop a lonely hill just outside Louisville, Kentucky. Today, it's known as one of America's most haunted places, with an eerie beauty that draws curious visitors like moths to a porch light. Originally built as a tuberculosis hospital, its reputation is as big as the rumors about it. Dark hallways, ghostly figures, and unexplained noises in every corner. For the brave, or the foolhardy, Waverly offers a tale of history and horror that's hard to beat, and often hard to sleep through. In the early 1900s, tuberculosis was such a menace that Louisville decided to lock it up somewhere far, and Waverly Hill was the chosen spot. The first Waverly Hills facility opened around 1910 as a plain, two-story building with just 40 or 50 beds. But TB cases kept climbing. Good work, bacteria. And so did the hospital. They quickly added new wings, solariums, and extra floors. By 1926, the hospital had sprouted 3 more stories, making it a towering complex fit for hundreds of patients and some staff who practically lived on site. The plan was simple: fresh air, rest, and hearty meals, basically turning the place into an outdoor spa, minus the zip lines. Waverly Hills was like a small medical commune. Patients lounged on sun porches or in a massive glass solarium. Even in winter, they might be bundled up and soaking up the sunshine from 9 stories high. Staff and patients raised vegetables, kept cows for milk, and had their own laundry, post office, and even a little library. It was basically a tiny town on a hill. Just imagine if your summer camp had ventilators and an unusual number of coughs in the background. Doctors back then believed sunshine was half the cure, so a lot of the treatment was letting the fresh air work its magic, or at least try. Of course, fresh air cures weren't enough on their own, and the doctors at Waverly grew desperate. They tried everything, from laying patients in wheelchairs by huge windows to using ultraviolet sunlight lamps. For the more intense treatments, surgeons actually removed ribs so a patient's lungs could expand. Ouch. Or even a whole lobe of a lung in some cases. Some treatments sound downright medieval. They'd collapse a lung to let it rest, or insert a little balloon inside the lung to pump it up. To today's eyes, These procedures look more like a horror movie than healthcare. Let's just say it wasn't exactly a relaxing spa day for the patients, more like a personal horror show with very sharp instruments. With all those sick people and no miracle cure yet, death was a daily occurrence. To spare recovering patients the grim spectacle, Waverly's engineers dug a 500-foot underground tunnel to haul out the recently deceased. This body chute led directly to the railroad tracks at the foot of the hill. Each dawn, bodies would be wheeled on mortuary carts through the tunnel to waiting train cars, making the exit as discreet as possible. It was practical, if macabre. Nobody wanted the front door crowds waving goodbye to Grim Reapers every morning. Nowadays, that tunnel is more of a spooky tourist attraction than a mortuary logistics center. But back then, it was the sanatorium's solution for out of sight, out of mind. Legends about Waverly's death toll have grown as tall as the building itself. Ghost tours love to whisper that 63,000 souls passed through here, but historical records put the number closer to 6,000 or 8,000. Even that many is nothing to sneeze at. Roughly the population of a small town. For perspective, imagine everyone in that town funneling through the death chute. Whether the legend inflated the count or not, there's no denying thousands of people's final moments were spent here. And on a hill like this, maybe every one of them left a little spirit souvenir behind. By the mid-20th century, antibiotics arrived, and TB finally met its match. Waverly Hills closed as a TB hospital in 1961. The ghosts probably sighed in relief that the plague was ending. But the story didn't stop. In 1962, it reopened as Woodhaven Geriatric Center, a nursing home for the elderly and disabled. Unfortunately, Woodhaven's chapter was a grim one. Overcrowding, poor conditions, and rumors of harsh treatments. Think cockroach reports and rampant electroshock therapy for restless minds. It shut down for good in 1982 amid state investigations. After that, Waverly sat empty and quiet. Its halls left to gather dust, and maybe a few ghosts swapping stories. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Waverly Hills was basically abandoned. Plans came and went. At one point, someone wanted to turn it into a minimum security prison, and another developer floated a giant Jesus statue on the roof. Yes, really. None of it panned out. Vandals, squatters, and thrill-seekers took over. Graffiti covered the walls, windows shattered, and floors crumbled. By the early 2000s, Waverly looked like a neglected castle. Then in 2001, Charlie and Tina Mattingly bought the place and started fixing it up. They cleaned decades of dirt, patched holes, and got tours running. Tina jokes that they promised to sell tickets if the spirits insisted on home showings. Today, Waverly Hills is part history museum, part ghost hunt, and part spooky theater. Visitors can tour the old hospital by day, and brave souls can even book overnight paranormal investigations for a fee, plus coffee for any restless specters. Every October, it goes full-on haunted attraction under the name Hysteria. Imagine Halloween on steroids with zombies and clowns roaming the halls. Waverly even starred in the 2004 B-movie Death Tunnel, and countless ghost-hunting TV crews have spent nights inside. It's like Disneyland for the dreadfully dead. Spectacular to see, with a near guarantee someone, or something, will say boo at you along the way. Even with all the theatrics, the genuine legends remain chilling. Take room 502 on the 5th floor, for example. Tour guides love to tell the story of a young nurse, often called Mary, in 1928, who was found hanging in that room, supposedly because she was heartbroken. Some say over a forbidden romance or a pregnancy. A few years later, another nurse is said to have leaped from the same window. There's zero official evidence of these tragedies, but the rumors are thick. People who stay near room 502 swear they hear whispers, footsteps, or even distant sobbing when no one else is around. It's almost as if the room itself is keeping the memory alive, or handing out ghostly eviction notices to the living. Creepy sightings aren't limited to just one room. On the 4th floor, Visitors often report glimpsing a shadowy figure in a white lab coat drifting down the halls. Empty doors slam shut by themselves, and the air sometimes fills with the inexplicable aroma of fresh-baked bread from the long-abandoned kitchen, as if a spectral chef is still cooking. In the children's wing, a little ghostly boy nicknamed Timmy is said to bounce a red ball down the corridor and giggle, even though no child has been there for decades. Guests also hear children softly singing "Ring Around the Rosie" in the old rooftop solarium, as if playtime never really ended at Waverly Hills. Put all that together, and even the most skeptical visitor might wonder if it's wise to wander the halls alone. Other spirits have favorite haunts, too. Some people swear they've seen a blood-stained woman darting through the corridors, a tale often linked to a tragic patient story. There are rumors of an old ambulance or hearse appearing out back, as if to collect the dead, with no driver to be found. On the 4th floor, enterprising folks have nicknamed a shadowy crawler the Creeper, for the way it slithers along walls and ceilings. Guests often feel sudden icy chills and cold spots in rooms that should be empty. If you're lucky enough to be there late, you might just remember your mother's advice. Always check the closet for monsters, because around here it might actually be true. All of these spooky stories have convinced many that Waverly Hills is worth investigating. Literally. Paranormal researchers flock here, setting up EMF meters, infrared cameras, and digital recorders in every dark corner. One well-known ghost hunting team spent a night inside and captured a faint EVP, that's electronic voice phenomenon, saying, "Remember me," in the pitch black. Another paranormal host joked that Waverly felt like a haunted department store. Each floor sells its own brand of terror. Guests trade stories of slamming doors with no one there, of cold fingers brushing their shoulders, and even cell phones snapping sudden flashes of light. Some claim their cameras and gadgets have refused to work when pointed at something unseen, as if the ghosts themselves are flipping the power switch. The result? Even hardened skeptics leave admitting Waverly Hills is one unforgettable place. For example, one veteran investigator, a self-proclaimed skeptic, shared how a stormy night visit changed his mind forever. He was strolling down a dark corridor with only a small flashlight when he suddenly saw a tall man in an old-fashioned white coat step through a distant doorway. One moment the figure was real and lit. The next, he just vanished into thin air. The sight was so vivid that the guy panicked and demanded someone turn on the light. When they did, the room was completely empty. That single experience was enough to convince him that Waverly's legendary residents are very real after all. He now laughs about it and tells newcomers, "Lesson learned. Never visit a spooky old hospital in the dark without looking over your shoulder." Waverly Hills has even inspired filmmakers and television ghost hunters, so its tales keep spreading. The owners like to quip that the real stars are the spirits themselves, and that the ghosts are on camera every tour. Guides sometimes joke that the ghosts critique the tours, though if they could talk, they'd probably complain about the low-voltage lighting. After each tour, visitors often admit they left with more goosebumps than souvenirs. In the silence of that grand old building, surrounded by its crumbling architecture and whispering walls, it's clear. Waverly Hills is a living storybook. It's a history lesson packed with spooky footnotes, and every creak or flicker just adds another chapter. Waverly Hills Sanatorium stands today as a monument to medical history, and to all the ghost stories that keep bubbling up. By day, it feels like a time capsule. You can see the massive walls, the old time-shelf medicine room, and the very tunnel once called the Death Chute, all reminders of a hard era. By night, it's a haunted house that tests even the bravest hearts. Visitors often leave with more questions than answers, and a newfound respect for a working heating system. Whether you're there to soak in history or chase thrills, one thing's certain: Waverly Hills is a tale you won't easily forget. After all, in this hospital the exit signs point the wrong way, and some say the ghosts might just call your name as you head for the door. Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky isn't just a bar. It's where country music, mob history, and full-blown demon rumors all go line dancing together. On any given night, you can grab a beer, ride a mechanical bull, and maybe get body slammed by an invisible spirit. Talk about all-inclusive entertainment. The land itself has had a rough past. Back in the 1800s, this wasn't a nightclub at all. It was a slaughterhouse. The basement had a giant well where animal blood and guts drained out. Sounds gross already, right? Well, legend has it that local cultists decided, hey, why waste a perfectly good pit of blood? Supposedly, they used it for satanic rituals, because who needs a pentagram when you've got a well full of cow juice? That's how the rumors of a portal to hell under Bobby Mackey's bar got started. And let's be honest, only in Kentucky do you have to say, careful near the jukebox, that's also where Satan hangs out. Fast forward a few decades, and the mob decided the spot was too good to pass up. It became a nightclub and casino where shady deals went down faster than cheap whiskey. The violence and criminal activity got so bad that locals nicknamed it the Bloody Bucket. And no, that wasn't a drink special. It was because people were literally getting killed. Not exactly a Yelp review that screams, fun family outing. Then came Bobby Mackey in 1978. He saw an old building with potential, bought it, slapped in a dance floor, a mechanical bull, and turned it into a honky-tonk. The man wanted music, not mayhem. But the ghosts had other ideas. To this day, Bobby swears he doesn't believe in ghosts. But he did put up a giant sign at the door warning patrons the place is haunted. That's like a lifeguard yelling, "Sharks don't exist, but if they eat you, we're not liable." Now let's talk about the club's star ghost, Pearl Bryan. In 1896, Pearl was tragically murdered, decapitated, and dumped in a field not too far away. While her killers were caught and hanged, her head was never found. Local rumor says her head ended up in the basement well, because apparently, when you're a ghost, you're not picky, you'll haunt anywhere with good acoustics and a steady beer supply. Guests claim to see Pearl wandering the dance floor, headless and searching, which is terrifying because you never know if that cold breeze behind you is the AC or Pearl asking if you've seen her head. Then there's Johanna, the dancer who supposedly poisoned herself in the club after her mobster father killed her lover. Her ghost is said to perfume the air with roses. Honestly, that's kind of classy compared to the smell of stale beer and nachos. If I had to be haunted, I'd take a rose-scented ghost over a headless one any day. And then we get to one of the juiciest stories. Bobby's wife, Janet. Poor Janet didn't even want to go in the basement. According to her, something invisible grabbed her by the waist, picked her up, and threw her down the stairs. Most people get an apology when someone pushes them. Janet just got bruises and a lifelong reason to never do the laundry again. She was so shaken by the experience that she refused to step foot in the club after that. And can you blame her? I mean, it's one thing to fight over who gets shotgun in the car. It's another when you're fighting over who has to deal with Satan's basement. Other employees and visitors have their own horror stories. Lights flicker, music turns on by itself, and people hear phantom footsteps when the place is empty. One guy swore a ghost attacked him in the bathroom mirror, and he actually tried to sue Bobby Mackey for not warning him about violent spirits. The case was thrown out, but I'd pay good money to have heard the judge's face when he read "assaulted by a ghost" on the docket. Of course, paranormal TV shows love the place. Ghost Adventures filmed their first episode there, and Zach Bagans walked away with scratches all over his body. Other shows caught eerie voices, phantom shadows, and even recorded ghostly growls. Ghost tour guides now lead brave or slightly buzzed guests through the basement, encouraging them to stand near the portal to hell and listen for voices. And if you don't hear anything, don't worry. The bartender upstairs will still call you sweetheart. Skeptics argue the stories have been blown out of proportion, that there's no historical proof of cults sacrificing people in the basement. But come on, it's way more fun to believe. No one's buying a ticket to tour a slightly spooky old building. They're buying a ticket to see Satan's Airbnb. Bobby himself has mixed feelings about the hauntings. He's always said he doesn't believe, but he doesn't exactly chase the ghost hunters away either. After all, the legends put his honky-tonk on the map. Some folks come for the music, others for the ghosts, but everyone leaves with a story. And even when the building was torn down and rebuilt, Bobby made sure the infamous well was preserved under glass for visitors to see. Because what's a country bar without a satanic display case in the basement? At the end of the day, Bobby Mackey's Music World is a place where history, tragedy, country music, and the paranormal all meet. You can grab a beer, ride the bull, dance to live music, and maybe, just maybe, feel a cold hand shove you when you're least expecting it. Where else can you get a night like that? It's Kentucky's weirdest combo deal. Honky-tonk fun with a side of hauntings. In the heart of Kentucky's Daniel Boone National Forest, the Nada Tunnel's dark mouth gapes from the limestone bluff. Its entrance is framed by dripping moss and vines, as if the forest itself is reluctant to part. Travelers on the narrow Kentucky Route 77 approach with headlights on, inching forward one car at a time. Even in daylight, the tunnel feels ominous, a moss-lined one-lane cut through rock that blends into the wild surroundings like a secret passage. In the early 1910s, the tunnel was carved for industry rather than adventure. Contractors of the Dana Lumber Company began blasting a roughly 900-foot channel through solid sandstone between 1910 and 1911. It was named for Nada, a nearby logging town. Steam drills and dynamite were used, with two crews working from opposite ends of the ridge. By 1911, the passage was complete, and small steam locomotives could haul timber through, carrying Red River Gorge logs 15 miles to the Clay City sawmill. A surviving black and white photograph shows dozens of workers and families posing at the tunnel's portal, celebrating the remarkable feat. Behind them, narrow wooden rails hint at the log trains soon to roll through. Early on, a dramatic mishap occurred when a full flat car of oak became wedged in the tight bore. Crews had to blast away the ceiling to free it, increasing the tunnel's height from 12 feet to 13 feet. Once cleared, the rattling steam engines began their regular trips through the gorge, smoke streaming into the forest canopy. As the towering trees of the gorge disappeared, the railroad quietly gave way to road traffic. Crews pulled up the tracks and built a dirt road in their place. Eventually, the tunnel was paved, but it kept its single-lane restriction and rough-hewn charm. Locals started calling it the Gateway to the Red River Gorge, and the nickname stuck. But not everything about Nada Tunnel's history is celebratory. During construction, a man died in a dynamite accident when a frozen stick of explosive was placed too close to a fire. It detonated and killed him instantly. That accident became the foundation of the first ghost story tied to the tunnel. Over the years, crashes and other tragedies have added to the lore. As recently as 2019, 2 people were killed in a crash near the tunnel's mouth. Locals whisper that the man killed by the dynamite never truly left. Drivers have claimed to hear distant footsteps or soft cries echoing through the tunnel on moonless nights. The limestone walls and the constant dripping water make the stories easier to believe, as if the rock itself remembers that fatal blast. Another spirit is said to linger near the entrance. According to legend, a young rock climber once fell to his death from the sheer cliff above the tunnel. To this day, some visitors report seeing a faint green light floating near the mouth of the tunnel at night, like a lantern carried by unseen hands. The unlucky climber's story has become as much a part of the lore as the tale of the dynamite worker, and travelers often share accounts of ghostly moans accompanying the eerie glow. Inside Nada Tunnel, the atmosphere is always unsettling. There are no lights other than headlights reflecting off rough, orange-tinged stone. At just 12 feet wide and 13 feet high, the narrow corridor amplifies every sound. The rumble of engines, the echo of horns, the drip of water from the ceiling. Even on the brightest summer day, the other end of the tunnel seems cloaked in shadow, as if daylight itself is hesitant to enter. This blend of history and ghostly legend has made Nada Tunnel a must-see for paranormal enthusiasts. Guides and travel blogs frequently mention reports of phantom lights, disembodied voices, and the eerie sense of being watched. Even skeptics admit there's something heavy about the air as you drive through, a strange stillness that clings to you long after you emerge on the other side. Of course, the danger is very real, ghost or no ghost. Warning signs line the approach, reminding drivers that only one car can fit through the tunnel at a time. Locals know to stop, flash their lights, and wait their turn before entering. As cars crawl through, passengers often fall silent, their eyes fixed on the dim curve ahead, their imaginations filling the darkness with whispers and footsteps. Today, Nada Tunnel is a beloved landmark, drawing hikers, climbers, and families into the Red River Gorge. Its history and its ghosts are woven into the identity of Powell County, retold by locals with pride and a touch of amusement for those daring enough to come looking for the paranormal. Whether people believe the stories or not, they can't deny the strange energy that surrounds the old tunnel. Standing at its entrance, you can almost feel the weight of its history pressing in. By day, it's an impressive feat of early 20th century engineering. By night, it transforms into something else entirely, a portal where past and present blur, where every echo feels like a voice and every shadow hints at a story waiting to be told. Imagine a roadside tavern serving whiskey and shelter before Kentucky was even a state. The Old Talbot Tavern has been doing just that since 1779, proudly calling itself the oldest Western stagecoach stop in America. Its thick 2-foot stone walls and heavy ceiling timbers make it feel more like a frontier fortress than a cozy inn. With deep window casings and massive fireplaces that once cooked meals for weary travelers, the place is basically a time capsule with a faint whiff of bourbon and history, and maybe a ghost or two if you hang around long enough. The building's eastern wing was crafted from rough-hewn limestone, looking like something that belongs in an English village rather than the Kentucky frontier. A brick addition came about a century later, and back in the day, the upstairs boasted just 2 large rooms, one for men and one for women. Private rooms weren't a thing yet, so you bunked with strangers and prayed they didn't snore like a freight train. Early on, the Talbot found itself in the thick of American history. It sat on the main route west, so it was always packed with travelers, soldiers, and merchants. General George Rogers Clark even used it as a supply base after the Revolutionary War, filling its cellars with provisions and possibly a few barrels of contraband booze. And in 1797, the exiled Prince Louis-Philippe of France, who would one day wear the crown, stopped by. One of his traveling companions painted murals on the upstairs walls that stayed there until a fire in 1998. Local legend says Jesse James later used those murals for target practice, putting bullet holes in the painted birds because, well, Jesse never did have a sense of home decor. The tavern's guest book reads like a history nerd's dream. Presidents Andrew Jackson and William Henry Harrison stayed there, and Abraham Lincoln's parents even crashed there when Abe was just a kid. Apparently, the Lincolns were so fed up with Kentucky land disputes that they packed up and moved to Indiana, probably mumbling something about never coming back. Henry Clay passed through, John Fitch bragged about his steamboat, and Stephen Foster strummed his guitar in the parlor. Even John James Audubon drank there, probably sketching birds while sipping something strong. As the years rolled on, the tavern continued to draw big names. Queen Marie of Romania lunched there in 1926, bringing a touch of royal flair to Bardstown. During World War II, General George S. Patton stopped by while visiting Fort Knox, and bourbon royalty practically lived there. The Beam family owned it in the early 1900s, and Maker's Mark distillers were known to be regulars. This place isn't just haunted, it's downright star-studded. Of course, with all that history, it's no surprise the Old Talbot Tavern is crawling with ghosts. By the late 1800s, tragedy had struck the Talbot family hard. 6 of George Talbot's children died in the building, including one who fell down the stairs and another young woman who hanged herself in despair. Locals say that kind of grief leaves a permanent mark, and they're not kidding. Some folks swear the inn never truly closes, and a few guests have checked in but never checked out. One of the tavern's most infamous ghosts is none other than Jesse James himself. Employees have told tales of chasing a shadowy figure in an old cowboy coat across the upstairs hallway, only for him to vanish without a trace. Later, when they saw a documentary on Jesse, they swore up and down it was him, cold laugh and all. Guests in the general quarters room often report hearing heavy bootsteps pacing the hallway at night, sometimes followed by phantom knocks, like Jesse himself is reminding them to get some sleep. Or else. Then there's the mysterious Lady in White. Guests have woken up in the dead of night to see her floating above their bed, her brown hair spilling over a white 1800s dress. One couple reportedly bolted out of their room in the middle of the night, leaving their luggage behind after she drifted through their window. Servers have also claimed to spot her gliding through the dining room just before closing, only for her to disappear when they approach. If floating ladies aren't enough to spook you, the tavern's objects like to move on their own. Forks and glasses have been known to slide across tables, keys vanish from the front desk and reappear upstairs, and the old piano sometimes plays a few notes with nobody near it. On especially quiet nights, the unplugged clock will start chiming on the hour, like some ghostly reminder that time is meaningless when you're dead. Guests have also reported strange glowing orbs drifting through their rooms at night. These orbs, red, yellow, or white, bounce lazily through the air, and some brave souls claim that touching one gives a shock like static electricity. TVs have been known to turn on by themselves, and thermostats crank up the heat in the middle of the night, leaving more than one guest sweating and convinced they've just survived a paranormal sauna session. Many believe the spirits are former members of the Talbot family. Mrs. Talbot, often described as wearing white, has been seen drifting around the back staircase. A child's laughter has been heard in the dining room, and guests have even reported the eerie sensation of someone climbing into bed with them while they sleep. Talk about a nightmare cuddle. Of course, it's not all doom and gloom at the Talbot. The bar is stocked with over 200 bourbons, making it the oldest bourbon bar in the world. Guests joke that the ghosts must enjoy the selection too, given how many spirits, pun intended, seem to hang around after hours. So if you ever find yourself in Bardstown, come for the history and stay for the hauntings. The Talbot is a favorite on ghost tours, and with good reason. Between the famous visitors, tragic history, and a bar that won't quit, it's the kind of place where you'll leave with a great story, or maybe a ghost following you home. Sleepy Hollow Road in Oldham County, Kentucky, looks innocent enough during the day. It's a quiet 2-mile stretch surrounded by lush trees and winding curves, the kind of road where you half expect to see deer grazing or kids riding their bikes. But as the sun dips and darkness creeps in, the road transforms. The trees seem to lean closer, the air grows heavy, and you can't help but feel like you've driven straight into a horror movie. The stories start with the infamous black hearse. People say it appears out of nowhere, creeping up behind you like it's auditioning for a Fast and Furious Ghost Edition. You glance in the rearview mirror, and there it is. Headlights bright, engine silent, until you speed up and it vanishes into thin air. Some claim the hearse doesn't just follow you, it chases you, forcing unlucky drivers to swerve off the road and straight into the ravine below. Locals swear it's happened more than once, and they'll tell you to stay far away after midnight unless you've got nerves of steel or a really good insurance policy. Then there's Devil's Point, a clearing off the road where things get truly bizarre. Back in the 1970s, people whispered about strange rituals, hooded figures dancing around bonfires, chanting in unison, like some sort of low-budget horror movie. Teenagers dared each other to go check it out, and many came back pale, trembling, and swearing they'd heard something. or someone whisper their names in the dark. Others claim that even today, if you stop near Devil's Point and cut the engine, you can hear faint chanting carried by the wind. Stranger still, there are those who talk about the time warp. You drive down Sleepy Hollow Road at 11 p.m., and the next thing you know, your watch reads 2 a.m., but you've only gone a couple of miles. No lost time from a dead phone or GPS glitch, just hours gone, with no explanation. Some call it alien abductions, others think it's some kind of supernatural Bermuda Triangle, and a few just mutter, "It's Kentucky. What do you expect?" And then, of course, there's Crybaby Bridge. At the bottom of the road, a bridge crosses Harrods Creek, and that's where the real nightmare fuel kicks in. According to the legend, long ago, desperate mothers threw unwanted or sickly babies into the water below. Now, late at night, people swear they hear faint cries, high-pitched, heart-wrenching sobs echoing through the mist. Even the bravest ghost hunters admit the sound makes their blood run cold. Visitors say the cries don't stop there. Some report hearing soft whispers or the lullabies of a grieving woman, the notes carrying just above the sound of running water. Others claim they've seen ghostly figures near the banks, glowing faintly in the dark. Whether it's imagination or something darker, the bridge never fails to leave people unsettled, especially when the air is thick and still. The hearse legend doesn't end either. Imagine driving slowly, headlights illuminating the road ahead, when you see those bright lights behind you again. Only this time, the car is closer, almost hugging your bumper. Some say they've looked back and seen an empty driver's seat. Others just hit the gas and pray their car doesn't stall. Crybaby Bridge isn't unique to Sleepy Hollow. Stories about haunted bridges with crying babies exist across the country. But locals argue this one is different. The details never change. The cries, the mist, the strange chill that runs up your spine when you linger too long. Even though the original bridge was replaced with concrete, the hauntings never stopped. The road has become a rite of passage for thrill seekers. High school kids dare each other to drive down it at night. Ghost hunters camp out near the bridge, and skeptics go in laughing but leave looking over their shoulders. The locals don't even flinch anymore. They just shake their heads and tell you not to tempt whatever's out there. By day, the road is charming, almost peaceful. Sunlight filters through the trees, and it feels like a scenic country drive. But the minute the sun dips, that charm flips on its head. The darkness presses in, every rustle of leaves makes your heart skip, and the only thing louder than your car engine is the sound of your own nervous laughter. In recent years, even podcasts and paranormal shows have picked up on the legends, detailing encounters with the hearse, unexplained sounds, and shadowy figures along the roadside. Some listeners find it thrilling. Others admit they can't sleep afterward and vow never to drive down that stretch, day or night. The history of the area adds an extra layer of chill. Some say the land has always carried a dark energy, from Native American legends about restless spirits to early settlers who spoke of strange happenings by the creek. Whether the stories are true or not, everyone agrees the road has a way of seeping into your bones. What makes Sleepy Hollow Road so unique is how it combines every horror trope imaginable. The phantom vehicle, the haunted bridge, the time slip, the eerie rituals in the woods. It's as if the road took every urban legend, blended them together, and whispered, "Welcome, traveler." And once you've driven it, you can't unhear the stories. If you ever find yourself on Sleepy Hollow Road, drive carefully. Roll your windows up, keep your lights bright, and whatever you do, don't stop near the bridge. Because if you do, you might just hear the cries of something or someone that never truly left. Man, what a ride this has been. From the hollers of eastern Kentucky where the fog creeps in thicker than Grandma's gravy, to the old ghost-filled mansions in Louisville, we've covered some seriously spooky ground in this second installment of Kentucky's Most Haunted Places. If you made it through without spilling your Ale 8-1 or clutching your UK Wildcats hoodie for comfort, then congratulations, you're officially braver than most of us. Now don't act like you didn't get chills when we talked about those spirits out in Waverly. I saw you looking over your shoulder, but that's okay, it's just Kentucky being Kentucky. But let's be real, only in this state can you grab a hot brown in Louisville, then drive an hour and be in the middle of a back road where the only thing greeting you is a ghost and maybe an angry possum. That's just the balance we've got here. A little bourbon, a little bluegrass, and a whole lot of haunted. And Kentucky folks, you know the drill. Next time you're heading to a UK game in Lexington or sliding into a Cracker Barrel off I-75, just remember, some of these ghosts probably rode shotgun with you. They love a good road trip just as much as the rest of us. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's it? That's all the haunted goodness for today? Don't worry, part 3 is coming, and trust me, we're saving some of the creepiest stories for last. From old mining towns where time just stopped, to those hidden graveyards out in the woods, you won't want to miss it. So if you haven't already hit that subscribe button like you're ringing the bell at Keeneland, drop a like and share this video with your friends. You know, the ones who swear they're not scared, but still won't walk into the dark basement. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your flashlight batteries fresh, and your nerves steady, because in Kentucky, the ghosts never clock out, and neither do we. See y'all in part 3.